Hello and welcome to Hot Topics Live. I'm Peter Stojanovic, editor of Hot Topics, and this is the Road to Recovery panel discussion in association with Rakuten Advertising. Now together I'm going to be joined by some senior marketers from Cult Beauty and from Harvey Nichols. Together we're going to understand how the marketing function in and of itself has survived and thrived under lockdown and how they're planning their road to recovery this year and next. Let's join them now. Chikay and Harvey, thank you so much for joining me on this Road to Recovery discussion. I hope you're well. It'll be fascinating to learn your thoughts on the marketing function and the last and next 6 months. Chikay, could you just start with explaining your role at Cult Beauty and a little bit more about your role?
Yeah, sure. So I am the Global Markets Growth and Partnerships Lead at Cult Beauty. I've been there for 5.5 years now, very, very long time. So under my remit and what my team look over is through different elements. So influencers is one of them. The affiliate channel is another. All third-party partnerships as well. And also the global growth strategy for the business.
Fantastic. Thank you. Harvey?
So I'm Lo Paradas and I look after all the affiliate CLO and influencer business in Harvey Nichols. So I've been in this role for about 2 years now. And then, it's pretty similar to Chikay as well. So looking at global partnerships, the affiliate channel, and also card linking and financial institutions.
Fantastic. Well, again, thank you for joining. Let's start top level at your function in general. From where you've been sitting, where has it been going? How has it fared under lockdown since March of this year? Chikay, why don't you start?
Okay, sure. So I guess we're in a very fortunate place being pure play online. So lockdown actually presented quite a big opportunity for us with, high street drugstores being shut, department stores being shut. People weren't able to shop for beauty in the traditional way, so they turned to online. So as part of the marketing department, it's our job to really promote our offering and also drive traffic to the website. But luckily, as a pure play online player, this is kind of our bread and butter, online marketing. So there was no need to shift budget away from, in-store, offline, out of home. It's already channels that we're familiar with. And if anything, it's kind of just channel changes, like investing more in one channel instead of another, and from an affiliate perspective, moving budget towards different publisher categories. The way people are shopping online, consuming content has changed quite vastly, and it's just about changing our marketing approach to be as present as possible in those new ways where people are interacting with the brands.
So you've been tweaking iteratively over the last few months rather than having massive shifts or changes?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that'll be quite different to Carrie's experience, for example, with the offline in-store experience. I imagine for you, Carrie, it would have been quite different to what we experienced and how we kind of changed our strategy and budget planning, for example.
Yeah, I think there's been two sides of the story. So obviously because I look after anything e-commerce, so from my side and from my team, it actually has been as positive as you've said. So it's been quite good, like you said, to really see the growth of online, actually get a lot of that stock that potentially we would have placed in stores, we would actually able to shift onto online. So it was actually a great kind of test for us to really understand online as an extra door, rather than kind of focusing just on brick and mortar. But obviously we saw the other side of the story as well by all of our 7 stores have been closed. So obviously there was no trading there. Our stock was kind of locked in the stores as well. So it was very challenging in terms of trying to shift all the focus onto online, whether we've normally been a business that has an omni-channel strategy. So like you say, we had to really change and become that pure player that kind of delivered everything through online only.
Interesting. And regardless of whether you're e-commerce, online, offline, beauty, wholesale, retailer, clearly as a marketer, you've got to have an element of planning. That's clearly one of your challenges, I'm imagining. The next few months, clearly just you can't predict it. So how are you both managing that within your teams and within the wider company?
So actually, the planning is really, really difficult overall, because if you think about it as a business, no business department works in silo. I think if I give you an example of an eyeshadow palette, buying an eyeshadow palette, actually behind the scenes, there are so many different elements to consider and think about. So the eyeshadow palette itself needs to be manufactured by the brand. There's componentry, plastic, a lot of the times this comes from China, and then there's the actual product inside it, comes from Italy very often, and those were the two major countries which were seriously locked down. So lots of brands weren't actually physically able to produce their products, which ultimately affects all of the functions of the business. It's not a case of increased demand, increased stock, increased sales. Unfortunately, it just wasn't that easy. And then with our shipping providers as well, lots of countries consistently getting embargoed on a daily basis. We'd receive updates where we just cannot ship there, which means our entire e-commerce team had to change our the back-end tech. So we couldn't physically allow people to select those countries, or we had to have a pop-up to advise them that we can't ship to them temporarily. And then also from our distribution center point of view as well, with increased orders meant more picking and packing. But, with social distancing, we had to allow for, smaller shifts of people so we could social distance from that perspective as well. It impacts picking and packing. So all of these are things that we have to take into account when putting together a marketing strategy. It's a good problem to have, but you don't want to be pushing too many things and driving that demand if we can't actually meet it from a logistical point of view, or from customer service, for example. When you get those increased order volumes, you get increased queries, but then the higher the increase and the longer the backlog, the more they are contacting you. So one of the challenges is understanding all of these different things that impact the business and trying to find a way to overcome them. So you're trying to stop those issues before they arise and become a real problem, and then people hold it against your business, saying like, really bad customer service, delivery times are so long, why are they marketing, or why are they targeting me with these ads, or pushing with these different publishers or different affiliates. It's all that whole approach, basically. And then for Carrie as well, me and Carrie were kind of chatting earlier as well, planning is a really, really difficult one, especially in terms of forecasting, right? So Carrie, how did you find that?
Yeah, I think the forecasting is like the most challenging thing right now, because obviously we have the past 2 months to kind of compare how the consumer has reacted to e-commerce. However, what is that going to mean for Christmas, Black Friday? Especially because we've seen bigger discounts now than what you see in Black Friday. So you think, okay, so is the customer going to react the same, or is the customer a bit oversaturated? So perhaps it's not going to react as positively to offers, etc. So I think the most challenging thing is to really understand what the customer is going to do in this period, and also to take into consideration if there is another peak and another kind of lockdown, would that really affect us positively again? I don't know. And also now seeing that as a country we're entering a recession, there's another factor that you really need to kind of include in your numbers and the way that you forecast and how the customer is going to react to your offers.
And what about the comparisons to other markets? Both of you operate on a global level, and you'll have eyes on different regions. How are different regions reacting to the fallout of lockdown-induced COVID-19, and what are you doing to ameliorate those?
So from Cult Beauty's kind of point of view, we really did, as the pandemic was global, we saw that demand actually increase, not just within the UK, but a lot of kind of the Northern European territories, which is one of the focuses for us at the moment. We have a .com site, and they target certain countries, and with those countries going into lockdown as well, they experienced very similar issues with buying, in physical stores like our consumers did. So they turned to online, and they were searching for their brands. So in that instance, paid search, that's where you can capture a lot of these audiences. So it was a really, really good opportunity for us to expand, and it was a great way to acquire new. However, the only downside I'd say to that is we are obviously not the only retailer that realizes this. It goes without saying, but that means the offline retailers also moving into that paid search space, increasing their budgets, increasing their spends. So what initially would have been, quite a profitable way to acquire new customers now actually means for that certain keywords which do drive a lot of new customers or do drive sales, it becomes a bidding war. And it's a case of who has the deepest pockets, and it gets to a point where we need to consider actually, how much is a new customer worth? We need to decide those metrics and KPIs. What's more important for us? Is it margin, profit, or is it gaining that new customer? And then once you have that new customer as well, there is so much competition. Like to Carrie's point, the discounting is so deep at this moment in time. It's clear that everyone is, is struggling. It's a very challenging time economically, financially. Like we said, we are in another recession right now. So it is a very competitive landscape, and I think it's very easy for the competition to just get almost carried away, but the focus and the most important thing is remain as strategic as possible, spend what you can afford to spend, and just be, and constantly adapt and change your strategy depending on what's going on. Because this week for us was very different to the previous week. Different things happen, different announcements are made, and with each announcement it does impact the run rate in kind of some way or another. With the recession being hit, once they announced officially we were in another recession, I think the moment people hear that, they become more aware of, and rightly so, that their spending, for example, it's so much uncertainty in the air. You probably want to focus on, your home, if people have mortgages, just keeping, making sure their payments are being met. They're probably thinking a bit less about e-commerce, shopping for clothes, shopping for beauty, things that aren't essential.
Carrie, Chikay was very honest there about the competitive analysis between online and offline retailers, especially on a global outlook. I suppose that's your cue to explain what you're doing and how you're sort of adapting to a new normal.
Yeah, definitely. So I think it is completely true. So their competition, it's even, more predominant now than what it would have been 6 months ago. So I think the way that we're doing is really focusing on those USPs, like exclusives, any price advantage, any of those things that we have that competitors might not have. So we're really just focusing on those points that kind of we stay true to ourselves globally to kind of deliver that message to the customer. And to the point about profit or demand, really trying to find that balance. I think we find it very difficult as well, especially right now, because you do want to acquire those customers, but you end up paying so much because the competition is so high. Then you realize, well, this is actually not profitable. So I think the way that we've kind of managed it, we've just tried to find a balance that, is benefiting us as a company, but we actually capturing and kind of incentivizing those customers that would come back. So utilizing a lot of personalization and targeting that would make the revenue these customers are bringing in quite incremental.
And Carrie, I'll stick with you if I may. We've mentioned adaptability, and we've mentioned the difficulty of planning. When you're looking towards the rest of 2020 and indeed into 2021, from a budgetary or planning perspective, and from a recovery perspective as well, are you looking that far ahead into 2021, or are you just sticking with a 3 to 4 month plan and then just sort of adapting and iterating as you go along? What's the timeline that you're working with?
So if it was up to the marketing team, we definitely would do 3 months because we don't really know how that's gonna plan out. But Obviously, for finance, we do need to kind of submit our forecast until March next year. We work on a financial year starting in April. So we are looking towards the beginning of 2021. And to be honest, it's like you say, it's very hard to understand what the consumer is going to react and what specific regions of the world are going to deliver. So like Chikay said, we have really, really interesting regions that have spiked up during lockdown. However, would that maintain throughout Q4? Would that maintain till early next year? So it's just that very challenging part of trying to combine your financial knowledge from the past 2 months plus what you're looking ahead in Q4 and kind of find a balance in that. Very challenging.
Yeah, Chikay, Carrie just mentioned the difficulty with the partnership between finance and marketing and the difference in timelines. Have you seen that too?
Yeah, absolutely. For us, in terms of planning, we take quite an agile approach at the moment. We do change our run rates according to, the numbers that we are seeing. And there's so much can change within the space of 1 month or a couple of weeks, for example. And then just with markets in particular as well, I think it depends on what the market is also doing within their own economy. So if we take, for example, China as a market, they bring in huge amounts of, custom for a lot of brands, like, for example, Harvey Nichols. They shop with a lot of British sites, British traditional department stores. That's where a lot of the sales and revenue does come from. However, with them suffering so much from this global pandemic, their government has actually they're encouraging spend to keep the spend within their own economy. So injecting money for them, similar to what is happening over here, with the whole Eat Out to Help Out plan. The different governments react in different ways, and ultimately they just want to strengthen their own economy. When this is happening and things in customs, new changes in fees and customs for delivery, it's really hard to know when that will happen, take effect. But once it does, ultimately it's going to it'll have a huge impact on our results for that particular region. And it does happen, and we're seeing it happen more and more. So we're quite lucky that we are able to adjust. How do you normalize a run rate when there's so many big peaks and troughs within the matter of months? So within our kind of finance team, we do work very, very closely monitoring what is happening, and we try to stick to the targets and the budgets that we have set out, but there is room for to move. It just makes it really difficult and challenging this whole period.
Chikay, that brings us very nicely onto the next part of the interview, which is sort of looking at customer trends and how you're implementing those changes that you're seeing to reflect those trends. So it'd be great to open this up to both of you for you to compare and contrast your experiences. But really, what technologies are you looking at? What different marketing channels are you hoping to explore or expand upon to capitalise on these new trends based on what we've seen over the last 6 months?
Yeah, so something that I know Carrie looks across within her remit as well is card-linked offers. So we have been partnering with quite a lot of different kind of card companies to offer incentives when people shop with them. And I think during this time with the economical, instability at the moment, I think the average consumer is a lot more savvy, first of all, to get offers, to get cash back. Things like voucher publishers are performing really well for us, understandably. People are probably a little bit more cautious to claim that that cashback offer, with Quidco's, the top cashbacks. They're just thinking about it a little bit more, whereas previously, prior to this, if they were shopping, maybe they'll just do it and it'll just slip their mind. But here, I think there's a definite consciousness to increase that savvy behaviour. So card-linked offers is definitely one of them. During lockdown itself, it was quite obvious, people are at home. They're going to be on their phones. They're going to be online a lot more than if they were out at the pub socialising or seeing friends on the weekend. So also working with influencers as well. We found that during that time, we did increase. I luckily had a new starter at the beginning of the year. She's a superstar. So we were able to really ramp up that influencer activity, the campaigns and the activations, whilst also partnering with content sites as well. Particularly, I mean, through Skimlinks as well. Got to give Skimlinks a shout out. They're fantastic. In terms of, offering so many different big publisher groups to give access to them all at once. And, everyone is reading more and more, consuming more content online. And it just makes it easier for us to be front of mind and for people to kind of learn about us in a discovery way through content as well.
Yeah, Carrie, I see you nodding there. But is there anything that you're doing a little bit differently to Chikay because you're in a different position?
Yeah, so I think, I completely agree in terms of the CLO and influencer area. We pretty much kind of expand in there as well. But I think the other thing that I wanted to say is that we really focus in on tech partners. So partners that are really helping us with the personalization of incentives. So for example, we work with RefLifter. So basically we have them on our site, and when they identify a customer that we know that is going to, for example, bring incremental value back, we will give them a specific incentive. As well as this, we have like new customer specific incentives as well. So when they are new to us and they never shopped with us before and they're kind of browsing on site, a little incentive will pop up for them as well. So I think it's just all about the personalization of the journey. And like I was saying, just offering that extra kind of USP that perhaps competitors might not have.
And based on what we've discussed today, what's sort of the fundamental lesson that you'd like to impart on a fellow marketer, or even actually a fellow industry individual, trying to understand what the market is going through as we recover? Chikay, why don't you go first?
I'd say just to be agile and completely understand and accept that nothing is constant during this challenging time. As long as you do accept that, and I think you constantly adapt, just understand what, to the best of your ability, and analyze all the data, all the insights that you do have access to, but understand that the next day things could be completely different, and you just need to be completely transparent, work as a business, no one in silo, just really clear lines of communication and transparency, and just do your best. It's a really difficult time, and I guess another thing is not just going out to marketers, just be kind as well. It's such a, everyone's going through their own journey currently. We're all working from home. Majority of people haven't returned back to the office yet. There is a lack of social interaction, camaraderie that you would have with your peers. Things take longer. Just don't lose your patience with people. It's not good for you. It's not good for them. But yeah, that'd be my advice.
I agree.
That's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm just trying to
definitely.
do.
Yeah, I agree with the agile side of things. I think that's what's keeping us going. So I think that's the beauty of what we do in of affiliate marketing, specifically how we can be very reactive, click and change things, strategies, etc. But as well as that, I think as retailers, we need to continue to be flexible. And this has really shown how valuable the relationship with your publishers, with your partners can be, because obviously when you're on client side, you do have kind of some sort of say on what you're doing. However, in this instance where you actually need their support more than ever. So I think by keeping flexible and keeping your partner's priorities as well in front of you, I think, very successful results can be achieved in very challenging situations.
Thank you. Chikay, why don't you finish us off? Are you optimistic in a different little sector, e-commerce and the global outlook?
Yes, I want to say I want to stay as positive as possible. Absolutely, it's a really difficult time, and there is so much going on in the world. Completely to your point, Carrie, it is my heart goes out for offline retailers, those stores. Seeing the news recently with M&S and this, so many job cuts. It's a really sad time. So I think it is difficult, but important to also be as positive as possible. But to Carrie's point as well, definitely there is a big dynamic change into online. It feels like e-commerce is really, really leading the way. Previously, where I think people were a bit, unsure to shop online, this has been the catalyst to really kind of throw this in there and, make it as a key channel for shopping. So in terms of e-commerce retailers, this is obviously a really, really big opportunity. And for those who are offline, I guess there's more pressure for them to adapt and change their strategy. But if you are already online, there is a lot of really exciting opportunity for the future.
Fantastic. Well, thank you both so much for your time today. It's been absolutely fascinating to hear both sides of the retail and marketing side. And it sounds like to recover on that road, one has to adapt and being willing to adapt. But it's been fantastic to have you both. Well, that is all we have time for today. Thank you both to Carrie and Chikay for their insights. And thank you for watching. Hopefully you've learned a little bit more about the state of the marketing function and in particular those brands on the road to recovery. Thank you.